Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to another video, welcome if you are new. Today is one of my favourite videos of the year to film. It's my makeup empties. Every makeup item I used up over 2024. So the first 7 or 8 months of 2024 I was doing a project 10 pan, which is effectively where you have 10 products you're trying to really focus using up, and I found it really helped me use up some of the stuff in my life. I then moved, so I cancelled the project 10 pan, finished it off, rounded it up, picked up the bits that I was running out of, mainly concealers, and now we have settled, and I might restart the project 10 pan, I might not. I haven't actually worked that out in my goals for 2025, but we're here to talk about 2024. We're here to wrap up all the things that I used up, all the makeup in specifically that I used up, and it all fits in this little box, albeit the box actually doesn't quite shut. The fact that I moved across the country with a box full of empty makeup products is absolutely hilarious. But here we are. This is everything that I used up over the last 12 months, all packaged in a lovely little box. We've got the fire crackling behind me, as you can probably see, because it's cold. Like, it is so cold outside, but it is now lovely and cozy in this room. In fact, I'm slightly overheating. But let's go through all of these products. So, I actually don't have the number to hand. That's what we're going to try and garner in today's video. But we're going to go through things in no particular order. The first one, and this would have been finished a couple of times over the years because it's like refillable, and I don't know if you saw the makeup haul I posted when I first moved into this house. So it had been posted kind of late November, early December, but I accidentally repurchased the whole thing rather than just the refill. But I typically repurchase the refills, and this is the Vive Modern Powder Perfector in the shade Light. I love this powder. It's a really good powder that adds like a little bit of extra coverage, is really smoothing. I have purchased this countless times. I absolutely adore it. There's a finish to it that I think like drugstore powders just don't quite emulate, and I'm a massive fan. And if we continue with the Vive fanfare, I also finished one of the Vive Modern Radiance Concealers in the shade Light. This was my second tube. I have a third tube on the go right now. It's actually the concealer that's on my face. It's a really creamy concealer, so it's quite thick. It doesn't look or feel thick once you've blended it out and like actually got it settled on your face, but it means it's got really good coverage. And then if you want it to be a little bit lighter, you can mix it in with a hydrating primer or a illuminator. That is really crackling. I'm gonna turn that down. Yeah, you can mix it in with like an illuminating, hydrating base to make it a little bit thinner, and then it makes a gorgeous foundation. I love this, have repurchased it. Vive is, I would say, my standout brand from 2024. Probably was from 2023 as well, but big fan. We then have 2 setting sprays. There's a third one. I might as well include it in here. The third one is the Beauty Crop Cocoa Aloe Mist Hydrating Setting Mist. This was fine. It did the job. I liked it. I probably would, if Beauty Crop was on the shelf when I was in the shop, repurchase it. Had no real complaints, absolutely did the job. But my 2 favourites are these 2. This is the Milk Hydro Grip Set and Refresh Spray, and then this is the e.l.f. Stay All Night Microfine Setting Mist. Now, the year before last I got married and I used this as the setting spray on my wedding day, which for those of you who don't know was the hottest day of the year. It was 34 degrees and we melted beyond all compare, but my makeup did not move, and I think a lot of it is down to the setting spray. I love this so much, would 100,000% repurchase it. And then the e.l.f. Stay All Night Microfine Setting Mist, which isn't the direct dupe of this. e.l.f. do have one that's a little bit closer, but to be honest, I think e.l.f. setting sprays are the best of the drugstore. I think this one has slightly more longevity in it, but this one is still pretty damn good. And I think as much as I did like the Beauty Crop one, and I would have no complaints if it was back in my life again, these 2 are definitely the favourites. I actually can't believe last year was the year I finished this foundation. I feel like I haven't seen it in years. I think I finished it right at the beginning of the year. This is the KVD Good Apple Skin Perfecting Foundation Balm. It was in the shade Light 12. I liked it. I didn't dislike it to the point where I was like, I do not want this on my face. I don't want to use it. I definitely liked it enough to use it through to the end. I would never repurchase it. It was so thick and quite heavy, and it was super, super high coverage. I will give it that. I'm just not necessarily a super high coverage kind of person, and I would rather my concealer have high coverage than my foundation, and so therefore it might be a personal preference thing, but I did just find this too heavy, so not a repurchase, but I definitely used it up. We've got the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Brightening Flawless Finish. I picked this up in the airport on, I think, when I went to go see Alex and his parents in France. I can't remember. I remember buying it and I remember being on my own, but I can't remember where I was going. It's fine. Like, it was a nice enough powder. I enjoyed using it. I don't think it's worth the money. So while I had no real complaints, I just don't think it's worth the Charlotte Tilbury price tag. The e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. I just don't think it did a huge amount. And I don't know if it's because I don't necessarily see pores as like a big skin concern for me, so therefore it potentially wasn't the right primer. I just don't know. It kind of fell a bit and I was kind of here nor there. So I wouldn't repurchase, but that's partly personal preference. I actually can't believe I managed to finish this. I think this was part of Project Tempan, but it felt like it went on forever. And it's the Rodial Soft Focus Glow Drops. And this, I think you can use it as a highlighter, but I was using it more as a glowy primary base situation, especially in the spring, early summer period. And I thought this was absolutely stunning. If you love that kind of like glowing from within, because then you apply your foundation over the top and it looks stunning. Like, I really enjoyed this, but I don't know if I would repurchase it, because I don't know if it's something I gravitate towards that often anymore. I think I'm more like low maintenance, throw it on, leave the house, call it a day kind of person, and I feel like this is a bit more high maintenance. The bronzing stick that would just never finish. This is the Merit Bronze Balm in the shade Clay, and I think I use this every single day for like a whole year, and honestly, like, it's finished. Like, it's done, it's finished, and I did really like it. It's a really beautiful, natural, not too heavy bronzing balm. So if you find bronzers a little bit intense, this is probably the one for you. Like, it is truly stunning. And I think maybe in like 2 years' time, I will repurchase it. I just think I've seen enough of it over the last like 18 months. I just don't want to see it anymore. I finished 3 mascaras, and none of these I would say are firm favourites. I think I finished them because I got them in various forms and I just needed to finish them off. So I had the Rare Beauty Black Mascara. This was gifted in a Rare Beauty PR parcel. I liked it. I found the brush was a bit big, which I can also say about one of the other ones in here. And therefore I found it can be a little bit messy. I did find black smudging under my eyes when I used this. Same with the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. The brush was just slightly too big and there was a little bit of smudging at the end of the day. So I don't think either of these two will be repurchases for me. Like, I didn't dislike them to the point where I was like annoyed about using them, or I didn't like using them. Like, they were perfectly pleasant, but they're definitely not favourites. And then we had the Great Lengths mascara by Botanic Beauty. This I found was perfect for lower lashes. I mean, the brush is quite big for a lower lash mascara, but in terms of, it's more about definition and length than it is about volume or like thickness or like being really black. And therefore I found it actually looked really lovely on your lower lash, because it's more about giving them a little bit of colour, giving them a little bit of definition and a little bit of length, and just calling it a day. Loved it. Kind of want to rebuy it. The e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. Now this is an e.l.f. primer I adore. I repurchased it. I think I've had like 2 or 3 of these over my life. I think this was the primer I used on my wedding day in conjunction with the setting spray. And the combination of these two, chef's kiss. Love it, definitely repurchase. The MAC Studio Fix Fluid SPF 15 foundation. I picked this up in an outlet at the O2. I don't think I would necessarily rebuy this foundation full price, the whole whack, have it back in my life. Like, it's a fine foundation, it does the job, like I have no complaints, but it's not a favourite foundation. Like, if I think about how I feel about my NARS foundations or my Charlotte Tilbury's, I just don't think it's on the same level. The Rare Beauty concealer. They come up with really inventive names for their products. So I feel bad because I've now said I wasn't a fan of the mascara. I'm about to say I'm not a fan of this. They make the most stunning blushes. They make beautiful eyeshadows. They have a lovely eyeliner. Like, they have some really incredible products. Their lipsticks and their lip oils and their lip glosses. Like, most things Rare Beauty make are perfection. I hated this concealer. As much as the mascara, like, I was kind of lukewarm about, I actually actively disliked this concealer. I purely used it up because it was part of Project 10 Pan, and therefore I kind of wanted to in the challenge. By the end of it, I was just so annoyed that I had to put it on my face. I found it looked stunning on first application, and as you left the house, you looked, well, at least I thought I looked perfection in terms of my concealer. And then literally you'd walk from the house to the office, look at yourself in the office, and the concealer had broken down and it had gone all like congealed, and it just looked really weird. It didn't wear well on my skin at all. And I tried it with different primers, different foundations, different setting sprays, different powders. Nothing worked. Something about this concealer and my skin just... So I would not repurchase. But there's many things from Rare Beauty that I do love. The Maybelline Superstay 24 Hour Skin Tint. This was very light, very liquidy, so it was quite messy, I have to say. The amount of times I spilt this on my clothes was slightly aggravating. For that reason, I probably wouldn't repurchase it. I know it's a really silly complaint, but I am accident and mess prone at the best of times. Then create a product that's naturally messy and we just don't get on. It's annoying because the finish of this was beautiful. It was a great colour match. It lasted really well. It's a beautiful product. It's too liquidy and I made too much of a mess and I can't do it anymore. So we're saying goodbye, but we're saying goodbye as people who respect each other but don't get on. A couple more concealers in here that I have finished up. We've got the NYX Bear With Me Concealer Serum, which I used up right at the beginning of the year. If you find concealers quite heavy, but you still want coverage, this is actually a really nice concealer. It's a serum texture in the fact that it's very, very thin, but it does actually have a decent amount of coverage. Like, it's not gonna cover like really harsh breakouts or like really heavy colouring, but it will erase kind of redness, it erases like scarring from spots. Like, it's got decent coverage, but it's so thin. I, for a little while, misunderstood it and actually didn't like it because of how thin it was, but then you learn to kind of really love it. I think you have to apply it with a brush and not with a sponge, and I think when I moved to the brush, I was like, beautiful. Because with the sponge, it just kind of disappears. So yeah, I would repurchase this. I am not in the market for concealer at the moment, but one day it'll be back. And then the Maybelline Instant Age Eraser or Anti-Age Eraser Multi-Use Concealer. I know this has cult status and I know people love it, but on me, it oxidizes and goes very orange. And maybe it's something in my skin, I don't know, but for me, it always just looks odd. And I tried buying it in a lighter colour and it still comes out, it's not necessarily dark, it's just really like orangey toned. Beautiful finish, but just the wrong colour. Couple of eyebrow pencils in here. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail because effectively an eyebrow pencil is an eyebrow pencil, but my favourites out of here are the Benefit Precisely My Brow, the Maybelline Express Brow. Yeah, they're my two favourites. They were easy to work with, the spillies were great, they weren't too waxy or too hard, Colour match was great. So these two are definite repurchases, and I think have been repurchased in the past. I found the rest of these were either too waxy, too dark, or too hard. And so therefore they just weren't either easy to work with or looked really unnatural. So you've got the Sephora retractable brow pencil, the Beauty Bay eyebrow pencil, and the Kosas brow pom. So I had very bad luck with brow pencils this year, but I think if you look at my makeup empties from last year, it's predominantly the same two eyebrow pencils over and over. So I just think I had more to play with this year, but these two are firm favourites. These three we're leaving behind. The eyeliner that made me fall in love with liquid brown liner, and I think I now would choose a brown liner over a black liner kind of any day of the year. This is the Benefit roller liner in brown, and I loved this. I did find it dried out quite quickly, and it's partly because the nib, I don't know if you can see that, is very long, and long nibs tend to dry out quite fast, but they create the sharpest line in the whole wide world. So I loved it for that, but it kind of annoyed me that it dried out quite fast. So I haven't repurchased this one. I'm currently using more of like a dip liquid one from L'Oreal and loving it too. But this did convert me away from the black liner onto the brown liner, and for that, big fan. Couple of brow gels. I think I've only got 2 finished because I've been like flitting around, but we've got the Benefit Fluff Up Brow Wax and the NYX the Brow Glue. Both great. Would repurchase both, to be honest. This is more like heavy duty, while this is more natural everyday, but they still both held my brows in place. So yeah, I would repurchase both of these. I've got some mini mascaras. I've got the Hitmos Drama Mascara from Lancome. Thing about this is there's a scent to it, and I just can't get over the scent. The scent makes me feel a bit sick, so I wouldn't repurchase. I can't remember what I felt about the mascara itself because I think I spent most of the time smelling it. I loved this. Such a big surprise. It's the Byredo Astronomical Mascara Volume. I've seen nothing about this, heard nothing about this, knew nothing about this, but it was the perfect combination of length, volume, definition, and thick black beautifulness. It stayed on my lashes. It looked stunning. I think this is my standout mascara of the year. Loved it. If you want an idea of what the wand looks like, it's plastic, it's slightly curved, and it's small, and it's bendy as hell. And I think I've discovered they're my favourite kind of wands. We're still going. Okay, next up is a blush. Believe it or not, I finished a powder blush. And this is the Tarte Amazonian Clay 12-Hour Blush in the shade Quirky. It was a free gift with purchase many moons ago when I made my first Tarte purchase. If I didn't have 100,000 blushes I still have to use, I would repurchase this in a heartbeat. It was beautiful. The perfect everyday pinky but not too pink blush, perfect my skin tone, showed up, lasted well, wasn't too intense, honestly perfection. And it was matte, which I'm a matte blush person typically, and I'm just not going to repurchase it because I just don't need it, but I do miss it. I also finished the Hoola Benefit bronzer. That was an achievement, I will tell you that. These bronzers, even though this is like the mini one, last forever. I don't know what Benefit put in their bronzer formula, but it just never ever finishes. Well, I mean, it clearly does, but it takes a long time. I actually love this bronzer, and I have repurchased it as part of a palette. So I now have a palette with this, Cookie, and I can't remember what the blush is called, but it's like a trilogy of Benefit powder products. It's the most, I think it's the prettiest. Not a contour, definitely a bronzer, but not too orange. Like, it's beautiful. Love it. 10 out of 10. 0 out of 10. I mean, that's really harsh. It's actually not a bad product. This is the Charlotte Tilbury contour wand, and it's fine, but it kind of blends away to nothing. And like, this is relatively light and easy and not too intense, but this is really not intense, to the point where you put it on, you're like, where did it go? This, considering how quickly I went through it, I think I finished this in like a month. Based on the fact it just doesn't necessarily show up, definitely not repurchasing. This is the Vive Skin Nova Instant Radiance Primer. I didn't use much of this before it went really weird, and it's really separated. And as much as I try and mix it back together, it's very much oil and shimmer, and they won't like be one. So I don't know if I got a bad batch whether I've just left it too long. I'm not sure, but I'm not obsessed with this personally. The Maybelline Perfecta 4-in-1 Whipped Matte Makeup. This was giving, oh, what was that Maybelline pop thing that we all used in like 2008? It was giving that, but like the modern version of it. And while it was fine and it was definitely better, I still found the texture really weird. It was like moussey but airy but heavy. Like it was a weird combination of feelings, and I wouldn't repurchase it, but I used it up. And then the Laura Mercier Pure Canvas Primer. I mean, I would rather, I think, use a decent moisturiser and just go straight in with foundation. I just didn't feel like this did much of much. 2 setting powders. We've got the Juvia's Place I Am Magic setting powder in the shade White Sands, and then the Sephora Translucent setting powder. Both of these were fine. I liked them. I don't think I loved either of them. My go-to loose powder is the RCMA No Colour powder, and I think it's better than both of these. They were both fine. Like, I didn't have negative feelings about them. I just didn't have like, this is my new powder. The Nails Ink top coat, which actually looks like there's some left in it, but it's because it's dried from being flat in the box. This was a 40-second top coat. It did the job. I liked it enough. I don't think I'm particularly like tied one way or another to top coats, as long as they do the job. But yeah, I liked it. I would rebuy it, but. And then the last 2 things, and oh no, there's 3 more things, and then the box is empty. We have a lip liner, which I think, strictly speaking, isn't finished, but it's so insignificant. I'm calling it a day. This is the NYX Line Loud in the shade Ambition Statement, and it's a lovely nude lip liner, and I would repurchase it if I'm not in the market for one. You know, it fits into that category. Like, I could do without it, but if I had used up all my lip liners, this would be the one that I go out and buy again. Finished the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer in the shade Vanilla. I liked this a lot. I only use pot concealers on massive breakouts, so they last a very, very long time for me. And I've currently got the Benefit, I think it's still called Boying Concealer, the Benefit Pot Concealer, which I don't like as much, but it does the job. So I use these very, very slowly, which means they last a very long time. But she's done, she's finished. She got completely used up. And then the last thing of the year, which I have repurchased and I loved it, is the NARS Afterglow Lip Balm in the shade Dolce Vita. Absolutely stunning. Such a pretty kind of everyday lip balm, tinted, moisturising, still got good colour payoff. Big fan. Would repurchase. I mean, I have repurchased. I don't particularly like any of the colours in this range. I think it's kind of this one or none of them, but it is beautiful. And if you want a tinted lip balm, big fan. And there you have it. That's a lot of empties. That's a lot of things that I've used up in 1 year. I don't think I'm gonna hit the same this year, because a lot of these were like half empty going into 2024, and I don't really have the same number going into 2025. But I still feel like I used up a lot. I haven't counted them, and when I do, I'll put it on the screen. But many, many things, a lot of favourites, a lot of mess, but a lot of favourites. And so many of these things I either have repurchased or will repurchase, or forgot I loved, and I've kind of rediscovered my love for it from rediscovering it. Yeah, I love so many of these things, and now I can take them all to get recycled, get them out of my house, and start the year fresh. So I really hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and click subscribe, because I do film empties, I would say like every 2 or 3 months. So click subscribe if you love a good empty, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!